Thank you so much for coming. Today is the second part of the summary overview of the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, entitled The Universal Form. So you have with you the little handouts that we use. They're activity worksheets for us as we watch the slides, so we can coordinate what's on the screen with something for you to do either now or a little later if you want to fill it in. And we pray to Srila Prabhupada and Krishna and all the Vaishnavas that they will accept this humble attempt to please them and carry out the order of Srila Prabhupada, that we study his books carefully and we try to help others do so as well, share our good fortune. So we pray for everybody's blessings in that regard. Okay, so we're going to do a really quick recap of the basic information in this sheet up till now, because today we're doing the fourth and fifth parts. There are 5 parts to this chapter. So very quickly we'll go over, and on my little tablets I'll put the information on the screen. If you turn quickly to just basic information, usually a 5 or 10 minute recap is handy if you've been here before, and if you haven't, it catches everybody up. So here we have the instructional objectives, which we covered yesterday. We're not going to dwell on those today. We're just going to go over the basic information, just as you fill out forms with a doctor or with some legal or a job application. You have to put in the most essential facts. This is just the fact sheet. But we also want to cover what are the essential philosophical points that are to be understood, known first, understood, and imbibed in our life, because it's serious business. If we have a material body, it's understood we've been subjected to repeated birth and death. And the only way to attain our eternal loving position as servitors of Krishna is by the mercy of Bhagavad-Gita and Srila Prabhupada's process. So unless we know this book, we're really just in darkness. So it's very important that we understand what instructions are given to us by the mercy of the Lord, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and all the other devotees that have helped make these materials, priceless materials, accessible to all of us. Okay, so I'll just take a moment here to use the little screen. Didn't set this up before I came. Blackboard. Okay. All right. I write on the little chalkboard here what it is that we need to do progressively, because anything that works in a school or a system is progressive. So if you study math, that's my favorite analogy. You go from level 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 and on up. If you want to go up to higher mathematics, advanced calculus, whatever, it's a sequential process, and previous information and chapters cannot be skipped, because there'll be a plank missing in the platform and you'll fall through or it will collapse. So the progression in spiritual life is the same. We can't skip over. You start with Shraddha, and then you go to Sadhu Sangha, and then you have Bhajana Kriya, and then you can be lifetimes in Anartha Nivritti. All of these are clearly delineated in the nectar of instruction and devotion. So we have to understand where we are, and unless we know the Shastra, Bhagavad-Gita is the beginning, we can't have what's called Shastra Chakshu, seeing through the eyes of Scripture, because the material world is a 180-degree reverse. It's flipped. And what we see will lead us to degradation if we follow our senses and our mind. But if we see according to the Scriptures, we are on the path of elevation. It's either elevation or degradation. So those of you who are interested in studying Bhagavad-Gita and do so regularly, I think you've begun to realize the importance of how Prabhupada is giving us the beacon, the lamplight through the darkness of the material energy. Okay, so back to our screen. So obviously if we were opening up a computer, we had many books perhaps to choose, but today we chose what book? The Bhagavad-Gita. Now this sounds elementary, but actually it's quite logical. Like that, and I'm making the line a little bit broader. Okay. So we've chosen. Why is that not working? Okay. We've chosen the book, Bhagavad-Gita. All right. Now the next step is at the beginning stages, we're just adding factual knowledge. But this is important. You have to start with knowledge, factual knowledge. So this is the 11th chapter, correct? And yesterday we established in our little general information, the most general thing we can say about this chapter is that, well, for one thing, it's 55 verses long. How long is it? 55. We always ask people to repeat because repetition means I heard it once, twice, and it's kirtan. Prabhupada said kirtan is a very broad term. It means hearing and it means repetition. You hear the singer and then you repeat it because that gives you more than once to hear it. So 11:55, that's the first information we now have fixed. Everybody's got it? All right. Some may have known that, some may not, but you add that to your information bank. And the next thing you do is you establish the title, right? That's important. Many devotees may not know that. The title, and we use codes, is the universal form, UF. So you can write that if you like. You can fill that in. We use codes because codes are used in chemistry. They're fast. And they're easier to remember. Right? You say H2O. You don't say hydrogen, 2 units, oxygen. It takes too long. You say, everybody knows H2O, that's water. So if I say UF, what does it mean? The universal form. How big is it? How many slokas? 55. Very good. Don't be afraid. Learning should be brisk. It's not meant to be passive and dull. It's not to mean panic, but it should be alive. Right? It should be lively. Okay, so be lively. Okay. Bhakti-siddhanta said a dead man cannot preach, right? You don't want to be like that. All right, so we know that much. Now we want to know, where is it? This book has 3 divisions, right? Karma Yoga, Bhakti-yoga, Jnana Yoga. Where is this chapter?
Bhakti-yoga.
It's in the Bhakti-yoga section. Okay, so it's in that. So you write in that section on your line, you put the B, just Bhakti-yoga, right? That's where we are. This is basic, A, B, C, first level. But you'd be surprised, you query some devotees and they may not know, they may not have gotten to this stage yet. Okay. So we always have to bring everybody up to the level. In a group, it's important to bring everybody up to the same level so nobody feels left out. Okay? Now, the next level is we see that that's general. Now, what's the structure? Just like this building, an architect would see the structure. He wouldn't be so interested in the furniture or the pictures on the wall. The first thing he would notice, where are the rooms divided? Because he's thinking big. So our next level of thinking big is to know the structure. And according to those who've analyzed this chapter, it has 5 units. Just like you might have a house, it has 5 compartments. So how many units are in this chapter? 5. Very good. All right. So we're going to turn now to the chart on that, Abai. Because the chart we have for that is very visual and helpful. And you actually have it in your study guide at the end of the slokas. If you want to refer to it for yourself or in the future, after the content verses, you have here, you see it? You see that chart? That's what's on your screen now. This is also in chemistry code form for your quick reference, for easy learning and also fast recall, longer retention. These methods are meant to be learner friendly. You increase the time in which you learn, you decrease the time in which it takes to learn something, and you increase the time in which you remember it. That's what every student wants. I want to spend less time learning it, and I want to have a longer retention rate, okay? Some of you look like students. Are you visiting from somewhere, from school? Yeah, you look about that age group, okay. Where are you from? Kanpur. Very good, yeah. So you're used to these study methods. Students usually, but some devotees may not be so familiar. But it's common sense, because at least all of you had to go through grade school, right? I don't think there's anybody here that didn't have that experience. Maybe, but not likely. All right. If you've had higher level education, this is standard, right? Very standard. All right, so we see here Bhagavad-Gita, universal form, topic entitled and size, because we want to know not only what, but where and how much. Like, do I have 10 rupees? Do I have 20 rupees? 5 rupees? And often size will indicate importance, right? If it's a very large chapter, sometimes not necessarily so much. But this chapter is more important than we might suspect. All right, now, we'll do the number sequence first. And in memory, it's like a memory skill. We teach skills. We look for numbers that repeat, or that they bring some kind of connection to mind. So yesterday we established the numbers. If you can bring that up again, Abhay, on the screen a bit. What's happening? There you go. We see 5 numbers at the bottom. These are going to give us an idea of how the rooms are divided in size. You can use an analogy of this building. Some rooms are bigger, some are smaller. Okay, let's look at the number 3. I see it repeated. How many times? 2 times. I also see multiples of that number. What are the multiples of 3? 12 and 9. So now we've established very quickly 23, 3, 12, and 9. If you use these memory skills, 2 things happen. You're actively engaging your mind in the study process, and you're actually entertaining it a little bit. The mind needs to be, what shall I say, almost entertained a bit, or it gets bored. So here you'll find, if you do things this way, it keeps it engaged. It's not just dry memorization. Okay, 23, 3, 12, 9. No, you do something that helps you remember, and it's a creative process. It's not just drudgery. Okay, understand that point? Everybody agree? The first number is an even number, and it's 8. So you think about 8, well, I always used to connect it to something transcendental, like 8 gopis or something like that. So now, without looking, you close your eyes and you see how many of the numbers you remember in sequence. Can you close your eyes and see them? Okay, close your eyes and try to say them. And 9. Were you right? Open your eyes. Were you correct? Yeah, check yourself. And if you're with somebody, what we often do in classrooms is we have study partners. If the person's next to you, we turn to them and we recite and they recite. That's a South Indian Sanskrit method. They study in pairs because they drill each other. By yourself, you may not feel the impetus to drill that hard, but when you're with somebody, it's momentum, right? It's alive. It's look at books or Krishna and Arjuna, right? Parikshit, right? Sukadev. There's a back and forth that gives it life. So studying in buddies system, and help your neighbors. If you turn around and you see somebody falling asleep or not knowing what to do next, say, hey, let's not miss the boat. Let's not miss the boat. All right, here we go. So now we know that. Now we want the chemistry code for the topics, because that's the substance. We have the specifics. You've come to this building, you found the room, you're sitting here. Why? Why? So that's critical. Why do I need to know this? Because they say in schools, what? So what? Prove to me I need to know this. So Krishna is going to be doing that in this chapter. He's going to be establishing why we as conditioned souls need to know this to qualify ourselves to be in his service. We've already been blessed, but we don't want to give it up, and we certainly don't want to stop before it's completed, right? So the first, we see a K with a little star, and we see UF. Now, what do you think that could mean? What's K probably mean? Krishna. Good. Always try to figure out something and then see if you're right. And the star represents that, he is now going to speak, and he's going to explain his explanation of what? In the universal form. We also have an introductory 4 slokas in which Arjuna asks him to do that. But out of the first 8, Arjuna is humbly requesting, I'd like to see the way you enter this material energy. And Krishna in 4 slokas reveals his description of his universal form. Okay? 4 verses are Arjuna speaking, 4 verses are Krishna, in which he gives his basic description of the what? Universal form. So you got an idea what the first slokas are going to be? You see, if you do this first, then when you read them, it just doesn't become what we call in education a long grocery list. Tomatoes, apples, pears, cauliflower, spinach, and then it's all this mixed up. But if you classify, sabji, fruit, right? Milk, dairy, you break it down, then your mind can handle it. So that's what this does. So the first 8 slokas, Krishna's universal form. Now the next one, S, with this little asterisk, and we see UF again. What does UF probably mean? Universal form. Because that's what the chapter is. We expect to be a lot of information on the universe. Who do you think S represents? Sanjaya, right. Sanjaya. Now he doesn't speak very often in the Gita, but in this chapter he speaks something like 7 slokas. Why? Because Sanjaya can see the battle. He can see the form by the mercy of Vyasadeva. And if he's explaining it to someone who can't see, who's he explaining it to? Dhritarashtra, who is what? Blind. Therefore, he has to describe it. Otherwise, if he sees it and he's not explaining it to someone who can't see it, will he explain it too much? No. And we will not benefit. If you see something and you both see it, are you going to bother to tell her what you see? No. But if she can't see it, you'll say, Mataji, look, that's like that, and it's like that, and it's like that. So Sanjaya does 2 things. He confirms that Arjuna is not having a hallucination. And he also elaborately opens the arena for a description of what it is we don't see. I don't think any of us have had a direct vision of the universal form. Right? Have you? No, you probably would lose your eyesight. It's too bright. You'd have to have sunglasses to, like that. 3D glasses. So Sanjaya now how many slokas goes on there? 23. Now in this case, he just introduces the discourse, and in just 1 verse, and then the rest of the way there is what we call a nest of speakers. This is so common in the Bhagavatam. Speaker within a speaker within a speaker, and you forgot, now who's talking? Is Narada talking to Yudhisthira, or is Hiranyakasipu talking to his relatives, or is it Sukadev talking to Parikshit? You really have to figure out who's speaking. But they do this because it breaks up the monotony. 18,000 slokas and it's always just 2 people. It gets a little repetitious. So it's a poetic device. So Sanjaya is introducing this, but actually he's describing what Arjuna is saying to Dhritarashtra. In how many verses? 23. And you'll find very little in the purports here. It's just one description after another. And basically you get the idea that this form is hot, fiery, glaring, fearful. Not something you'd want to try to dress like the deities in the morning. Right? Where do you start putting the clothes on, right? How many garlands do you have to offer? How many mouths do you have to feed, right? And you can't even feel a loving relationship with something where you see everybody rushing into it like, a meal. This form is eating up people, gobbling them up like a meal. That's not an attractive idea. We're actually all headed into the jaws of the serpent death. We don't like to talk about it too much, but it's true. We're in line. We're in line. Okay? So now we got that set down. Now in the middle, Krishna is going to speak again. He's going to speak again. And he is going to give an instruction in 3 verses that are famous. Just 3. Arjuna is going to talk again after this. And in this, he's going to tell them to become what? An instrument. Yes. I've killed them already. Do your duty. You're not taking the blame. You're going to get the credit. Right? And he starts off by saying the famous line, "Time I am, the destroyer of all worlds. I've come here to destroy all of the people here on the valley." Whew. So he's revealed himself as the Kala Rupa, not just the Vishvarupa. In how many verses? 3. So you see now how by doing this, it takes a little time, but you have done your grocery shopping intelligently. You know how many pieces of sabji you need, how many fruits, how much dairy. It's not just a string of mumble-jumble things. Now, after this, Arjuna, in the next one, A is for whom? Arjuna. Very good. And his reaction to what Krishna has said, because he's terrified, and Krishna is going to explain to him. He asks him before Krishna responds, he says, "Please tell me what your mission is. What are you doing?" "Time I am, here, the destroyer of all worlds." So after this, Arjuna becomes fearful. And as a result of that, he starts what? Praying. Have you ever felt the need to pray in your Krishna conscious life? Anybody? Regularly? Either you're really advanced and but I don't know. I practically do it every morning I wake up anymore. What's next? What could be worse? I don't even want to think about it. So after he has heard that Krishna's "Time I am, the destroyer of the worlds," and everybody's going to be killed on the battlefield, including most of the relatives on Arjuna's side, he becomes fearful and he prays. And how many verses are we going to hear about that? 12. And then at the end, he's going to admit that this fearsome form, it's not my rasa with you, Krishna. I'm in Sakya Bhav. And this is one of the secondary rasas, wonder. We'll talk about that. We're going to go over the 12 rasas. I'm not too comfortable with this. My equilibrium is disturbed. I'm perturbed. So Krishna feels compassion on him, and then he says, "Can you show me your forearm form? Something not so threatening, not all these unlimited arms, right?" And he asks that, and then we're going to get a beginning. After those verses, Krishna will say, "Don't worry, you can be peaceful now." So Krishna, in the last one, you see the heart there, right? And underneath you see K and 2. Now what do you think K means? Krishna. What do you think 2 means? 2 arms, not 4. Right? His 2-arm form, not his 4-arm, Vishnu form. And what does it take to see it? Devotional service. What kind? Mixed? No. What kind? Pure. Yes. So everybody sitting here, I think, likes to go see Radhe Shyam. And you like it that he has 2 arms and a flute, right? If he suddenly showed you his 4-arm form, you'd think, "Am I in the right temple?" Right? Wait a minute, that's South India maybe, or someplace. That's not me. Or that's another sampradaya. And there are sampradayas like that. Because different jivas have different destinations. So everybody sitting here is probably interested in going to Goloka, right? Right? Everybody? Everybody wants to go to Goloka because you're not going to see Krishna doing this. And if he does it to fool the gopis. But they walk by it. Oh, Narayan, where's Krishna? But the Bhagavad, if you look up in the dictionary, you look up the word Krishna, they will say he is an incarnation of Narayan. They get it backwards. But you know better. Two-arm is the original form. So that's why this chapter is important. It establishes that the universal form is temporary, and it's being exhibited to prove Krishna's divinity, and it's being exhibited to prove that only Krishna can real universal form, not some imposter. But most of all, it proves that the highest and essential form is Krishna's two-armed form. That is the original form from which all of the other expansions emanate, right? 4 arms. And sometimes Krishna is shown with 8 arms. You see him. And the universal form, unlimited arms. So this chapter is important. It establishes what Arjuna needs to know as the beginning of the reestablishment of the parampara. That's why Arjuna has to ask this and why he has to see it. Because the parampara establishes what it is in terms of Siddhanta we need to understand. We can't just walk around and say, oh, Krishna, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. You know, you got to have a little bit of philosophical depth to know why you love him. And after you see something, you live, oh my God, God is God. OMG, oh my God is God. But I don't want to know that, I just love you. Okay? All right, so you understand now how it goes? All right, let's say the numbers. 8, 23, 3, 12, and 9. And the first code is what? Krishna? The universal form. And the second one who speaks? Sanjaya. And he describes what Arjuna is going to say about the universal form. And then what happens for 3 slokas? Krishna is going to tell him his mission to destroy everything. Pretty scary. And then what happens to Arjuna? He starts praying. Oh. And then he even remembers, wait a minute, you're more than what I thought. I thought you were my friend, but please excuse me for my offenses. I probably was offending you. I didn't realize who you were. Have you ever met people that were very important, but you didn't know it? And maybe you were too familiar with them? And then later you found out, uh-oh, I shouldn't have been so relaxed. You know, like sometimes a newcomer may come and they'll maybe walk up to a Maharaj and they'll say, can I ride along with you to the airport? You know, something just completely inappropriate. And then later when they realize, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have said that. So here he is, he didn't realize his actual position. So he's asking for forgiveness. He's praying, glorifying Krishna, he's asking for forgiveness. And then he also admits, I'm really losing my equilibrium. Okay, so we're getting a little summary there. And then in the very end, we're going to hear about the description of the 4-armed form briefly, and then the importance of the 2-armed form, how it cannot be understood by other methods or seen or perceived, and what it takes, and in the last sloka, the formula, 5-point formula, which leads us into chapter 12, which is more about devotional service. So everybody got the contextual picture now? Is that clear? Does that help you? Okay. So the next thing we're going to do, because yesterday we spent a little time on that. Oh yeah, on this, on the reverse side, there's one other thing we want to circle. There's a section called themes. In the Bhagavad-Gita, there's been identified 16 major themes that run throughout the Gita. Sometimes they're more prominent in some chapters than others. And we always like to see in which chapter particular themes are prominent. And in the back of a little study guide I have here, And these are available, by the way. This is nothing more than a little pocket study guide for the Bhagavad-Gita. It is something that we put out for a few years back for a retreat. And it's been quite helpful. Many devotees, as they're reading, they refer to this. Because if you open the chapter, you'll see just what we did. Right? That information, the size and the topic and the breakdown. And on the back, it also happens to have 1155 as the sloka. Because Prabhupada said that verse is it's the summary of the Bhagavad-Gita. It's a summary verse. So I thought, well, let's put that on the back. So it happens to be like that. So here you see, in the back of the book, you'll find these 16 themes, 12 major categories, 4 of which have 2 subdivisions. And we're going to put a circle around the more prominent themes in this chapter. Not every chapter has all of them. Maybe something like chapter 9 may have a high percentage. So we're going to circle 12a and 12b because 12a describes bhakti. It takes a certain amount of bhakti to even see the universal form. It's confidential, but even more confidential and most confidential is the 2-armed personal form. And that would be Ananya Bhakti. So you circle those 2, because that is what we would say would be the summary conclusion of this chapter. If you really want to know why it's in this section, I would have to say 1155 will tell you. What's the universal form doing in bhakti-yoga? It's not bhakti. But it proves that bhakti is supreme. And I would also circle levels of God realization. Number 6. That's important here. Are you attracted to the universal form? Are you attracted to the 4-armed form? What's your level of attraction? And that usually either represent your bij, which is eternal. You may be a Vaikuntha Bhakta. Or you may be one for Golok. And even in Golok, you may be Sakya. You may be Vatsalya. You may be Madhurya. Right? You can be the other too. You can be Shanta. You can also be Dasya. But in Vaikuntha, just Dasya and Santa. You can't have the other 3 there. It won't work. You don't just jump on Krishna's shoulders and say, let's go for a ride. It doesn't work. Okay, so I would circle that one. And I would also circle defeating impersonalism, number 7. Because not so much in the verses, but Prabhupada in the purports really keeps stressing that those who comment on Bhagavad-Gita, and there are so many, not only in India, everywhere, where they're stressing the impersonal form. They either have a speculative idea of what is Krishna, or they're stressing the impersonal form as being supreme. Both of which are wrong. Impersonalism is wrong, mental speculation is wrong. The only understanding the Vaishnava line accepts is according to the scriptures. That's our authority, not somebody who's not a devotee. Only a devotee can have that revelation. It's not possible. Krishna covers them. Mayaya, apakrita gyan. They're covered. They think they're the body. How can they comment on something that they don't understand? And in this chapter, Prabhupada said it's the greatest injustice. The greatest injustice, because they're misleading people from the truth. And that kind of misleading is not only harmful for them, but it's harmful for others. It's denying them their spiritual perspective and objective. Okay, so you got some idea of why this is here. And then for those of you who just have come, you have the advantage of all the verses here bold-faced, where we highlighted content words. So they stand out. It's a learner-friendly activity book. It's meant to make it easier for you. And we've given you the 2 key verses, 54 and 55. These have been defined as being the essence. And you can tell by the purport. The purports are the greatest in length. We'll be going over that a little bit today. You have definitions from each section in the purports. Wherever Prabhupada said this word is significant, this term is significant. We're going to talk about a few words from this chapter you should know. You should know Somya Bapu. Most beautiful form. Right, most beautiful form. And there's some other terms. We have a little chalkboard. At the end of that section, we have a little chalkboard. And I put here the Sanskrit. It's a little hard to read, but the Sanskrit, Krishna karma is another word. What's Krishna karma? What are some of the words Prabhupada said you should know in this chapter, the Sanskrit? And the one English word he stresses is criterion. Criterion. This is the universal form is the criterion by which we establish that Krishna is divine, and also that imposters cannot show the form. So that's one English term he defines, and he defines so many of these other Sanskrit terms. Also the form that Manasa Rupam, that he's the form of a human. Because some say, well, he adopted a material form. No. That's his original form. That's an important point. Even some devotees are a little confused about that. Krishna does not have to adopt a form. That's his original form. We are fortunate. We have been blessed with the form that means we're close. We're close. Okay. And then you have a section called Analogies and Examples, and I go through each subsection, and I go by order for philosophical points. And I try to make slides. Now, I was traveling this period, and I lost about a week and a half of production time, so we only have a few of those to examine today. But I usually try to make slides for all of these so you can get a visual picture of what's an important philosophical point. Because we don't want to know just facts. We don't want to know essence. Okay, and then here's a fun activity for you. You can read a sloka, and then you can go back, and then you can see, can I fill in the blanks? That's, there are about 5 or 6 kinds of tests teachers give. Fill in the blank, complete the sentence, true or false, short essay. There are all kinds of tests. So fill in the blanks is one, but this is a fun one because you can go back, and of course the problem is many editions of the Gita are slightly different, but at least from the one that I think is the current one, you get varieties. It's sort of close. At least you get the main idea. All right? That's also by the 5 subdivisions. Everybody understand what you have here? And then you have your checklist, a criterion, so important. I think that was before the quiz, where you've got a 1 to 5, and then again I went through, I think I've got a couple of pages on that, 3 pages, 3 sides, on which Prabhupada gives the criterion for our own advancement. One would be, for instance, this is important. Do I accept the statements of authority, Vedic authority? Some people challenge it. They still prefer to speculate. And 1 to 5, because not everybody's on the same platform of understanding. And another would be, do I like to hear in the association of devotees? Like you're here, you must like to hear. Right? And especially if we're here at Prabhupada's house, we're trying to present it according to the parampara. And we pray for that. We don't want to say anything that's deviating for ourselves and for others. So this is a good checklist, 1 to 5. And you see the scale up here. Do I never do it, or do I always do it? And one other one would be Krishna karma. Do I give all of the results of my work to Krishna? 1 to 5. Well, maybe I like to keep a little bit for the weekend. Or I still take in a movie once in a while. Or I treat myself to an ice cream cone when the little cart goes by. Whatever, but you have to see. It's being tabulated. We're under construction. If you ever go on the road and you'll see on the highway there'll be a sign that'll say, under construction. Guess what? That's us. Our next form is being created right now. So what we do and think and say, and it adds up. Just like on the computer. You walk into the grocery stores now, right? Computer tells you owe 1,200 rupees. There's no questioning. You just pay it. So the devas are big computer brains, right? They're working out your body. You can, those people who know astrology or they know physiognomy, they can look at the body and they can tell what you are. What you did or didn't do right. Okay? Okay? So now what we do is we're going to go through the slokas and we're going to start with number 35. You can follow it on the screen. And this is the beginning of Arjuna's prayers. Yesterday we did the section. Yeah, well, we have a holy festival with this projector. We can, you know, Krishna's just showing us we can't control anything, right? We just have to accept what he's giving us. You know, surrender is what we call the fact of life. Whether you like it or not, you will surrender, either willingly or begrudgingly. But surrender you must. You can't do a thing about it. So here you see 35, 36, 37, you see 6 out of the 12 slokas. And I show the key words here. So I'm going to use the key words to give a summary. Okay? Because this helps us. I call these the pearl charts. These are little pearls, and each pearl represents a sloka. And I pick a word that's called a link. It's a link, just like on the... You see, you press this link and you're going to watch this video, right? So it's a link. It's connecting you with that sloka. So the link is obeisances, joyful, great, sanctuary, great-grandfather, and master. In these 6 verses, Arjuna is glorifying Krishna. In the next 6, he's going to ask for forgiveness. First, he's going to praise him because he realizes, wait a minute. It's true, if you're going up to somebody important and you made a mistake, you say, oh, my dear sir, I am so sorry, right? Please forgive me. So let's go back. I want to just give a little summary there. So he's going to say obeisances from all sides. Everybody should praise you from every angle. And the world is joyful upon hearing your name. But there are 2 kinds of people. Those who are devas, they're happy, but the demons flee. Have you ever noticed if you go out on book distribution and you try to tell people Krishna is God, and they'll say, you're going to hell, or something like that. They were telling that to Lokanath Maharaj. They stopped his car, and the man says, where are you going? And Lokanath Maharaj said, he politely said, well, you tell me where I'm going. And the man said, you're going to hell. And Lokanath Swami said, oh, really? You know, what a way to say anything to somebody, you know. So the demons don't like to hear glorification of Krishna. They cover their ears. Or they say something ridiculous like that. And then he said, of course you're great. Who could be greater than you are? You're the father of everything, right? And you're the sanctuary of everything. Everything takes shelter in you. And you're even the Pratipita Maha. You're the great-grandfather of even Brahma. And Brahma and Shiva are sometimes considered to be supreme. But you're even above them. And you're the master of everything. So this is just a few of the words. I mean, each sloka has about 6 glorifications, right? At least. Okay? So now let's do the slokas together, okay? When I stop, you say. I can, oh yeah. Yeah, maybe, oh, you have it, I have it too. So you hold on to it. Because yesterday I had a hard time reading it, and it sounded over the radio that I needed to put my glasses on, you know, or something like that. Okay, so give me a moment to check in. And we're on sloka number 35. I go to the index. And technology is great, but it's not what we call completely perfect. Okay. All right. It begins with Sanjaya. Are we right? Sanjaya said to Really louder. Louder? Yeah, I also have a hearing problem. Okay, after hearing these words from the Supreme Personality of the trembling Arjuna offered obeisances with folded hands. Again and again. He fearfully spoke to Lord Krishna in a faltering voice. That means, I'm not sure what I'm doing. As follows. Okay? Next verse. Arjuna said, O master of the senses, the world becomes joyful. Are you all able to see this? If not, you can follow in your text. If this is too tough, you have your verses in the book, your little booklet. Because we've given you both. It's our backup system. Everybody okay? It may be easier to follow. The pictures, though, are there to help you get the visual impression. Because pictures are worth 1,000 words. These are early pictures of devotees in Boston on Harinam. And in those days, Harinam was really ecstatic. I wasn't around then, but I've heard. They were jumping off the ground like 4 or 5 feet. Even the Madajis are up front, you know, going wild. And it's not fake. It's genuine. Okay? O master of the senses, the world becomes joyful upon hearing your name. This is a beautiful verse. Thus everyone becomes attached to you. Although the perfected beings offer you their respectful homage, that means respects, obeisances, the demons are afraid, and they flee here and there. All this is rightly done. Next. O great one. Now he's glorifying him. Greater than, even than Brahma. You're the original creator. He's Brahma's considered the creator, but he's original creator. Why then should they not offer their respectful obeisances unto you? O limitless one, God of refuge of the universe. You are the invincible source, the cause of all causes, transcendental to this material manifestation. Now see, it's one glorification after another. Just, he's really reiterating Krishna's position. You're the original personality of God, the oldest, the ultimate sanctuary of this manifested cosmic world. You are the knower of everything, and you are all that is knowable. You are the supreme refuge above the material modes. O limitless form, this whole cosmic manifestation is pervaded by you. You're everywhere. Every atom. In the middle of the atom is Vishnu. We're sitting on Vishnu. Vishnu's everywhere. Okay? Next. I think I missed one here. You are air. Is that the next one? You are air and you are the supreme controller. Now he's going to enumerate the elements. You are fire. You are, and you are the moon. You are Brahma, the first living, and you are the great grandfather. Yes, he's the father, even the father, the grandfather. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you 1,000 times and again and yet again. Obeisances, obeisances, obeisances. Obeisances to you from the front, from behind, and from all sides, every direction. O unbounded power, you are the master of limitless might. You are all pervading, and you are everything. Well, when you see the universal form, it covers the bases, right? Next. Now here's a double sloka. Here's where he changes his mood. Thinking of you as my 41 to 42. Yeah. Thinking of you as my friend, right? Sakya Ras. I have rashly addressed you, oh Krishna, oh my friend, not knowing your glories. Please forgive whatever I may have done in madness or in love. It's true, when people are mad, they do stupid things. And when people are in love, they do stupid things. Love is blind, right? I have dishonored you many times, right? Jesting as we relax, lay on the same bed, or sat or ate together, sometimes alone, and sometimes in front of many friends. Have you ever embarrassed yourself in front of other people? Or have you been embarrassed in front of other people? Whoa, many times. Oh, infallible one, please excuse me for all those offenses. So even Arjuna is praying for forgiveness. We always say, please forgive. When you write a letter, please pardon my offenses. You should write that at the beginning of a letter because we're bound to make them. Next. You're the father of this complete cosmic of the moving and the non-moving. You're the worshipable chief, the supreme spiritual master. No one is equal to you, nor can anyone be one with you. How then could there be anyone greater than you within the three worlds, O Lord of immeasurable power? This is Krishna's powerful vision, right? His vision, okay. You're the Supreme Lord to be worshipped by every living being. Thus, I fall down to offer you my respectful and ask your mercy. Now he's going to compare three analogies. As a father tolerates the impudence of his son. Yeah, a father will tolerate his son if he gets a little out of line. As a friend tolerates the impertinence of a friend. Or as a wife tolerates the familiarity of her partner. Please tolerate the wrongs I may have done you. We're bound to make mistakes every day. So we should be in that mood. Next. After seeing this universal, which I have never seen before, I'm gladdened. But at the same time, my mind is disturbed with fear. Yeah, this is more than I was expecting. Therefore, please bestow your grace, right, upon me and reveal again your form as the personality of Godhead. O Lord of Lords, O abode of the universe. Now he's still keeping his position quite high. Next. O universal form, O thousand-armed Lord, I wish to see you in your four-armed form, with helmeted head and with club, wheel, conch, and lotus in your hands. I long to see you in that form. Let's get a break from a million hands. Let's just see four. Next. What was this? I skipped one, 47 now. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now Krishna is speaking, my dear Arjuna, happily have I shown you by my internal potency this supreme universal form within the material world. No one before you has ever seen this primal form, unlimited and full of glaring effulgence. Right. So this is the first time anybody has seen it. And Prabhupada writes in the purports, we're going to see a slide on other universal forms. Next. O best of the Kuru warriors, no one before you has ever seen this universal form of mine. For neither by studying the Vedas, nor by performing sacrifices, nor by charity, nor by pious activities, or by severe, can I be seen in this form in the material world. So other processes don't work. They may be beneficial, but they're not ultimate. That's number 48. 49. You have been perturbed and bewildered by seeing this horrible feature of mind. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free again from all disturbances. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire. Sanjaya speaking again to Dhritarashtra. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, having spoken thus to Arjuna, displayed his real four-armed form, and at last showed his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. This section is more like going to a drama. It's the passages are very dramatic, more than philosophical. You know, it's like full of you can just see Shakespeare in something like Julius Caesar or Hamlet. You know. Okay, so there he is. Next. When Arjuna thus saw Krishna in his original form, he said, O Janardhan, seeing this human-like form, so very beautiful, I am now composed in mind, and I am restored to my original nature. Thank God we're over that one. I can go back to what I really like to see. Number 50, are we 51? 52. Now we're getting close to the end. So you see in the last few verses, this is when the two-armed form is revealed. Remember? He's saving this up. This is the finale. Because up to now we've been seeing the universal form. We've been praying. We've been asking to see the four-armed form. But very quickly he shows his two-armed form. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold for two reasons. It's just difficult and it's confidential. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form which is so dear. And that's true. Even when Krishna was in the womb of Devaki, the demigods were praying at that time. And of course his first appearance to Devaki and Vasudeva was in the four-armed form. Yeah, so that they realized, wait a minute, this is God. Then he was a little boy, right? Next. The form you are now seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood. Now this is, number 3 is good. 53 tells us how you cannot see it. 54 tells us how you can see it. And 55 tells us the process. 53 tells you you can't do it this way. 54 tells us you can do it this way. And 55 said this is how. Okay? The form you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing severe penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. No, these won't work. But what will work? 54. It's very logical. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service, not mixed. I think it was said one time that the bhakti should not be conditional, partial. What was the other one? It shouldn't be conditional, it shouldn't be partial, and it shouldn't be artificial. I shouldn't have strings attached. It shouldn't be partial, and it shouldn't be fake. It should be real. Undivided devotional service. Can I be stood as I am, standing before you, and can be seen directly? Only in this way can you enter into the mystery. Bhakti is not just a science, it's mystical. It's revelation. It's both. It's a science, it's a mystery of my understanding. Now, Krishna's not cheap. And believe me, you can't fool him. Anybody figured that one out? The last verse. This is the formula for success. 5 points here. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, and that means without the contamination of what? Fruitive activities and mental speculation. Those are the two, yeah. One would be karma yoga and the other is jnana. Now, number 2, he works for me. Krishna karma. He works for me. And he makes me the supreme goal of his life. Why are we here? We want to go to Krishna Loka. Do we want to go somewhere else? No, we wouldn't be here if we did. And who is? Friendly. Did you notice that one? Now, if a person's not too friendly, is he going to make it? You can't walk around and be a grouch and expect to be in Krishna's company. You should smile, you should be happy, you should be friendly. And Prabhupada defines friendly even further. Not just that you walk around smiling and being like the materialistic, hey, hi friend, hello, how are you? No, that's artificial. They have a motive. You should be friendly in trying to give Krishna consciousness to others. That's how Prabhupada defines friendly. He says he knows people are suffering because they're forgetting Krishna. And the real friend is one who tells them why they're suffering. That's a friend. So he defines friendly like that. But he also means, you saw Prabhupada, I mean, he could smile like anything, like a big watermelon smile, Okay? You like that sloka? Okay, we're going to take a quick peek at some special slokas. Did you like reading it together? It's fun. If you're with another person, you might do that. So it's not just passive for one person, there's a back and forth. And it helps you get into the drama. Because it's very dramatic. This is a very dramatic, the universal form. Oh my God, OMG, right? Okay, so let's look at some slokas now. And these are from the philosophical points. We tried to put them in the order the last minute. I have to thank him, again and again, obeisances and again, because he worked so hard to help me get these done in time. So let's go now to this one. This sloka is coming from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's from the first canto, the 3rd chapter, entitled, Krishna is the source of all incarnations. And this is referred to in a couple of purports, not only the beginning ones, but later. Because that's what's being established in this chapter. But Krishna is the origin of all other forms and incarnations. He's not an incarnation. He is the source. So we have here pictures of the various, some of the main, 21 main incarnations defined in the Bhagavad. They're unlimited. But they name about 21 major incarnations. He is the origin. This sloka 1:3:28, you'll hear it. The famous line is Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. It's called the Emperor verse. What's it called? Emperor. Yeah, it's the main verse. Because this is what the Bhagavatam is here to establish. It's what the Gita is here to prove. All the Vedas are here to prove. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is what Prabhupada gave to the world. Now in India you might have known that, but I grew up in America. I never knew Krishna. I never heard of Krishna. And I certainly didn't know he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if you like, I'll tell you a little story later about my life. Because it's interesting, when we come to a particular slide, if you want to hear something personal, how I came to believe this. Okay, next. In 11.4, Krishna now has taken the mood of prayer. Submission. This is the point. If you think, I am able to behold your form, then kindly reveal that form. He doesn't say, okay, show me God. You don't do it that way. It's challenging. You have to be submissive, and you have to have the adhikar to see. Submission and qualification. So that's the important philosophical point at the end of those 4 slokas. And then Krishna reveals the form. He does it because he knows why Arjuna is asking, not for his benefit. He's asking it for our benefit. Arjuna accepts. We probably accept. But what about all the people out there that don't? You have to try to help them understand. Next. Oh, now he's giving him the divine eyes. It cannot be seen by ordinary eyes. Only by divine eyes can you be seen as I'm standing before you. Next. You can't see that sloka there. That's number 8. Famous verse. Famous verse. And this verse is in that purport. It's coming from the Bhagavatam, and it's how the devotees in Goloka don't want to know Krishna's God. It gets in the way. If you, let's just say your father, or let's just say your son, becomes the Prime Minister of India, and he comes home for dinner, are you going to treat him like the Prime Minister? You're going to treat him like your son. He will always be your son. He happens to be the Prime Minister. It's secondary to them. In Goloka, it's intimate. Right? Even whenever there's any important person, movie star, famous singer, famous anything, if it's a family member, they don't see them like that. They see them as the family. It gets in the way. We're like that. Right? If a friend comes to see us, are we impressed by what they do? No, they're our friends. We don't care what they... I mean, obviously we don't want them to do anything wrong, or they wouldn't be our friends, right? But our friendship is based on something different. Love. Right? Next. Now, this is in the 12th verse, an analogy verse. Sanjaya is trying to explain to someone who can't see what this form is like. It's like millions of suns at the same time. Can you look at the sun, one of them, for very long? How about a million? So this is just an attempt to describe what this universal form is like in terms of effulgence. Next. Now here are the rasas. And we're going to give you a little game here to try to learn those. There are 5 main ones, and I'm sure everybody knows those. There are 12 rasas altogether, right? There are 5 major ones and 7 secondary ones. Okay? So I always like to do little tricks. So the major ones we know. Santa, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. Okay, but the minor ones, and sometimes the words change, I'm going to give 3 C's, D, F, G, and a W. Okay? Because if you do it this way, if you try to memorize something and then the words change, and it becomes a mental burden. But if you use little letter tricks, it helps. So now you want to be able to identify the 7 rasas. How many of you know them now? So you're going to learn something important. Because Arjuna has taken on this one when he sees the form. This is a secondary rasa, and it's covering his natural mood. And it won't last, because it's not his nature. Like Gopakumar. Gopakumar traveled through the whole universe, but he wasn't happy, because it wasn't his rasa. You each have an eternal relationship with Krishna. It's fixed eternally. And you will not be happy in any other position. C, C, C. 3 C's. Comedy. Comedy. Humor. Sometimes it's called happy. Comedy. C, compassion. What's the first one?
Comedy.
Comedy. What's the second one? Compassion. And the third one? Chivalry. Right. Chivalry, bravery. So comedy, compassion, and chivalry. All right, D, F, G. This one is devastation. Yeah, some of these are heavy. These are three light ones. These are three heavy ones. Devastation, fear, ghastliness, ghastly Ross. There are things that are horrible in life, aren't there? Ghastly, G-A-S-T-L-Y. Just like, if you watch a drama like Shakespeare and then somebody poisons somebody, it's ghastly. It's not pleasant. There's a lot going on in the world that's ghastly. Every day, every morning. Read the newspaper. You can't handle it. Devastation? Fear? Ghastly. And W is for wonder. In the mood of wonder, Arjuna's hair stands on end, his voice is faltering, he's in awe. So now let's say them. Comedy, passion, fear, chivalry, devastation, fear, ghastly, wonder. So you learned a little something today, right? That's coming from the Nectar of Devotion, introduction. Okay, next. And here's another analogy. He's describing how the soldiers are going. When he sees all the warriors, they're going into the mouth of Krishna like rivers, like waves of rivers, just rushing into this mouth. That's not a very pleasant vision. All the battlefield, you see them on the battlefield, they're all rushing into Krishna's mouth like rivers. Next. Or as moths, you know how moths are attracted to light? They'll go right into a fire and they'll kill themselves. So the fire that's coming out of Krishna's mouth, the universal form, they're rushing into that fire. They're going to their death. Next. Here's an hourglass. This is a famous sloka, 1132. Oppenheimer said that when they dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He somehow knew the Gita, and he said, "Time I am, the destroyer." I wonder what kind of birth he took for coming up with a bomb that kills so many people. Okay, "Time I am, the destroyer of all the worlds." Famous quote. So Krishna reveals himself as Kala Rupa. Next. Famous word, Savya Sachin. Savya Sachin means one who can shoot arrows expertly on the battlefield. He addresses Arjuna as Savya Sachin. And he said, just be an instrument. They're already dead. Our destiny's already been decided by Krishna. We're just playing out the role. We don't know it. We may have some idea. But Krishna knows. Next. Now, here's another word. Prapitamaha. He's not only the father of everything, he's the great-grandfather, because Rama is considered the grandfather. But Krishna is the great-grandfather. It's another Sanskrit word there. You have it on the side. I like to do some of the vocabulary keywords, because we were stressing knowing the meaning of words the other day. Next. Now this is interesting. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the 20th chapter, in the Madhya Lila section, the forms of Vishnu are defined, the names in the different Vaikuntha planets, according to the clubs and the position of the four weapons and the four symbols. So, if you see paintings, maybe the artist knew or didn't know. But I looked it up. I found this picture of Krishna, which you cannot see so well because of this slide. And the way to know is you start with the lower right hand, and then you go to the upper right hand, and then you go to the upper left hand, and then you go to the lower left hand. And according to the Siddhartha Samhita, they give you 24 combinations. If you know math, if you've got 4 options, how do I rearrange them? And I come up with 24 varieties. So I looked at the picture, and then I went through the list. So I found out this was Madhava. Madhava. There are many of them, Keshava, Hokshaja. It's all described, and Charitamrita is very technical. And some books define it as there are 16 forms, but this one defines 24. So you have the club in the lower right, the disc in the upper right. Those are both for demons. And on the upper left, you have the conch, these are for devotees, and the lotus on the lower left. So it happens that the demons are on the right side on this one and the devotees on the left. But you'll get any combination, and now if you look it up, you see who's who. Okay? So that might be fun. The next time you see a picture of Vishnu, check it out. And go to the 20th chapter of the Madhya Lila and find out. The artist probably didn't know. They may have, but it's an interesting point. Okay, next slide. Here we go. These are different manifestations of the universal form. It's unfortunate that purple is so strong. You know, we try to make these slides clear. I should probably try to show them on my little tablet also. Anyway, who's the first one who saw it? Mother Yashoda. And then who saw it? Duryodhana. And then who saw it? Arjuna. And then Advaita. Yes. So let me go to the end here. Maybe we can see them a little better. I don't know if this is any better. It's sort of small. Yashoda, Duryodhana, Arjuna, and Advaita. Now, would you like me to tell you something personal? When I was 32 years old, this was before I heard of Prabhupada or Krishna, and I can tell you this from my heart, I'm not making it up. The movement had come and gone, and I was so sinful, so covered, I wasn't fortunate enough to even hear the word Hare Krishna. So one night I was walking home, and I just looked up at the sky, and I said, I wonder what the universe is like. Now this is the beginning of human life, when you start asking those kind of questions. You have to be careful what you ask, because within 1 month, Krishna showed me. Now my name at the time, I didn't know. Right? I'm a non-devotee, and my name started with J.M. Joanne Massey. I don't know anything about anything. But one day, I asked this question, and 1 month later, you know what happens? I started to realize that the present is simultaneously the past and the future. And I started to see it. And I almost lost my sanity, because it was too much, right? You break into a level of awareness, and nobody around me had it, so they thought I was losing my mind, which I could have. So for 2 years, I started reading books on spiritual topics. And more of them were starting to validate from the Eastern philosophy what this was. Western philosophy didn't quite get it. But none of them gave me the answer. One day, after 2 years of reading, I go through the phone book, and I go under religion, and I come to the word consciousness. It said Society for Krishna Consciousness. I said, maybe they know. So I go to a temple, and I tell them I'm suffering like anything. Nothing's working. People are telling me I better see a psychiatrist, but I know I'm not wrong, but nobody believes me. And you know what they said? Oh, come on, that's nothing. It's a glimpse of Brahman realization. You probably had some material desires and they're out of the way, and now you're resuming your spiritual life. Have some prasadam and chant Hare Krishna, and it won't bother you so much. And later, what did my name become? Yashoda. It was a glimpse of the eternal now. I don't like to get into it because it's pretty terrifying. And I can see why she didn't want to look at it. And I can see why Arjuna didn't want to look. And people even tell me, oh, can you tell me your future? Can you tell me your future? I said, let's forget it. It's not something we want to get into. But it is how the great sages could tell the future. They can read it for many, many, many lifetimes. So does that help you understand? And it proves that our relationship is fixed because this happened before I knew anything. You understand the point? I didn't know anything about anything. And when I came to the temple and they said Krishna was God, I said, I believe you. Whatever they said, I believe you. So anyway, so let's see another slide really quickly. Did you like that story? It's funny how Krishna proves to each of us in a different way. It's all different for everybody. Okay, next. And here is the famous word Somya Bapu, the most beautiful form. And it attracts everyone. Isn't that a beautiful picture? Okay, next. Do we have any more slides? Oh, Krishna Karma. This is another term we should know. Krishna Karma means I work exclusively for Krishna. And it doesn't matter what I do. I can garden, I can raise fruit, I can build a temple, I can run a computer. But my work should be done for Krishna. Next. And there's our ending slide. These are the little boys, and it says here in the Bhagavatam, who have for lifetimes accrued pious credits, and thus they are now playing with Krishna as his friends. They're his friends. I don't know if I have a little picture like that. Like that. That's that slide. And it says in the Bhagavatam how they must have performed so many pious activities for so many lives. So now they qualify for the highest relationship. He's my friend. I'm playing with them. He's not God. And even if he were, so what? Right? So that's our ending to the universal form. Thank you so much for coming. We ran over a little bit of time. I hope you found this helpful. You learned a little something. And hopefully it helps you appreciate chapter 11 and its importance in the Bhagavad-Gita and in your life. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripasindhubhyacha, Patitanam Pavanivo, Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.